Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us on Morning Markets from True Potential. Today, we'll look back at the end of last week and how asset markets performed, and we'll look forward to the news flow and economic data that we can think about this week and how that will influence asset prices. Just looking back then at the end of last week, we saw equity markets over the course of the week marginally lower. But digging into that, I think it's really instructive to just look at what's been happening at a sector level. So whilst at the headline level we're seeing flat to slightly down indices, within that we're seeing ongoing rotation within various different sectors. And by that I mean if we look at some of the more economically sensitive sectors such as financials, energy, industrials, materials, they were performing much better last week, and that rotation that we've been discussing continues to be very evident. And indeed, it merits attention going forward, but it also speaks to something that's at the core of how we at True Potential think about building portfolios, and that's the role of diversification, the exposure to different styles within a portfolio. The other area of real news and excitement last week was certainly very much around what we were seeing in the bond market. And we've been discussing over the past number of weeks how inflation expectations have been building and how that has been influencing the yields on sovereign bonds. And really last week we did see sovereign bond yields move out quite a bit over the course of the week. If we look at the US 10-year, start of last week 121, end of the week 134. Looking to how it's trading this morning in Asia, the yield on the 10 years out at 139. So that continued move out in yields that we've been discussing. Also seeing that across the curve. So if we think about the duration, we look at the 30-year curve in the US, we're seeing a similar same amount of steepening. So moving from 201, the beginning of last week, to 214. It's not just in the US, it's across sovereign markets really globally. We're seeing that in the UK, I should say. We see the UK yield moving from 0.57 at the beginning of the week to 0.7 at the end of it. Steepening of yield curves really very much associated with improving the economic sentiment, improving economic backdrop. Ultimately that coming in two aspects, growth being better, but also inflation maybe starting to move up slightly. And also in the case of the UK, I think it's very important really to think about the speed of the vaccine rollout and the percentage of the population that is now covered by the vaccine and the targets that are being set. That's really supportive of allowing the economy to heal, allowing parts of the economy that have been closed to reopen. And the other area of the market last week where that narrative around the UK was very evident is really in sterling. And we've discussed how since the Brexit agreement was in place that we've seen sterling gradually strengthen over the course of the subsequent weeks. And very much evident last week, traded it through 140 relative to the dollar, 116 against the euro. So sterling strength really a key theme of the past couple of weeks. Again, the vaccine narrative being very supportive of that at this point in time. Just then thinking about the week ahead, well, what should we expect? Well, a lot of data this week, particularly in the US, and a number of points there that I think are worth focusing in on. Firstly, we get the Fed's favoured measure of inflation, personal consumption expenditure index. That'll be important to see the direction of inflation, but it also will frame how the Federal Reserve are thinking about the outlook for inflation. We hear from Jerome Powell later in the week as well. And I think that will be a closely watched speech for a number of reasons. One, that of which we've discussed, the inflation backdrop, how the Fed are thinking about that, how they're marrying that with the dual mandate of focusing on full employment, but also any commentary around the direction and the speed of change that we've seen in US yields will be important for the market. So that'll be watched closely as we go through the week. We also have durable goods orders in the US, which is really a good indication of the health of business investment activity. So we'll have a look at that and report back as we go through the week. Closer to home here in the UK, we've unemployment data along with some house price data. I think the unemployment data will be watched closely because whilst backward looking, it's giving us an insight into where the economy is and that recovery that we have to see as we move through 2021. In Europe, we get final fourth quarter GDP readings. Thing there just really to look at the divergence between countries within Europe, and in particular that which we've been discussing in Germany, the strength of industrial manufacturing activity really supporting the German economy. Expected that we should get just a mild positive reading, so continued growth in the fourth quarter in Germany in comparison to what we'll see in other of the Eurozone countries. Just then thinking about Asia, a few things from Japan over the course of the week, particularly retail sales, industrial production numbers, which we'll take a look at and see if they continue to build in that trend that we've discussed over the past couple of weeks of improving economic momentum in Japan. We saw that last week with the PMI for the manufacturing sector coming in above 50 for the first time in a number of months. So just looking at how equity markets have performed overnight in Asia, Japan continues to move positively, just given the sentiment and the backdrop around both corporate data but also the economic data that we've been discussing. A number of other markets are lower over the course of the day. We look at what's happening in South Korea or China, for example. That's pointing to a slightly weaker opening for UK, European and US markets at this point in time, but a lot can happen over the next couple of hours ahead of those markets opening. I'll leave it there for today. Please do subscribe on our YouTube channel, and I look forward to speaking with you again tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to the True Potential YouTube channel. If you have any questions or requests for future videos, let us know in the comments.